Diaspora in ASEAN, Reconnecting with Social Impact. It gives me great pleasure once again to introduce our esteemed panel to once again take their seats on stage. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this is our final official panel for PBD 2018 as we come to you live from the Marina Bay Sands. The title for the panel, Diaspora in ASEAN, Reconnecting with Social Impact, will be chaired by Mr. Jayesh Parekh, Managing Partner for Jungle Ventures Singapore. Can we give him a big warm welcome, please? Good afternoon, sir, Mr. Jayesh. And to be joined by our esteemed panel, Datuk Sri Syed Ibrahim Kadir, President for Congress Indian Muslim Malaysia, or KIMA for short. Datuk Sri, a very good afternoon. Mr. Prasoon Kumar, Chief Executive Officer of Billion Bricks Singapore. A big warm welcome, please, as well. Mr. Rajiv Srivastava, Managing Partner, Basel Capital Partners, Founding Partner for Arthur Firm Singapore. A big warm welcome as well. And last but not least, Mr. Ravi Manas, President of Children of Mother Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in giving our entire panel a big, broad, and collective welcome, and I should hand the proceedings over to Mr. Jayesh Parekh. Mr. Jayesh, please.
Thank you for coming to this last panel. I think that after this we have the gala dinner, but also I understand that there is a parallel session going on with cinema, and so I'm quite impressed that all of you decided to come here instead of going to see Satish Kaushik, who's a very famous comedian and a director. We're going to introduce ourselves first. The way we're going to run this 1 hour panel is we're going to introduce ourselves first, and then each one of the members are going to make a presentation on their thesis, and then we're going to have a discussion followed by a Q&A. We hope that we'll be able to keep some time for Q&As, and so please feel free to ask questions. My name is Jayesh Parekh. He introduced me as the managing partner for Jungle Ventures, which is a venture fund. I'm a co-founder of a TV channel called Soli Entertainment Television. But the reason I'm here today is because I'm also on the investment committee and the board of an impact fund called Avishkar. And I've been on that Avishkar journey for the last 10, 15 years. I'll talk to you about a little bit on that. But last assignment that I have taken up is as an advisory board member of an organization, non-profit called Akhanda Jyoti Eye Hospital. So this is a hospital in Bihar, which is a low-income state, and they do 65,000 cataract operations every year, 80% of them for free. And so that's the latest project that I have. Thank you. So I'll give you a little bit of comments about my thesis after my panel members give their discourses. We will start with Datuk Sri Syed Ibrahim.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good afternoon to all ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you to the organizer for giving me an opportunity to be one of the speakers at this forum. Distinguished guests, honorable chair, panelists, ladies and gentlemen. I am the 7th president of this 41-year-old party, KIMA, which formed in 1976. KIMA is a sole party representing almost 1 million Muslims of Indian origin in Malaysia. I'm also the chairman for the National Islamic Progressive Foundation, Yakin. This foundation is under KIMA and formed in 2010 to support various welfare, education, social, NGO programs for Indian Muslims. Prior to this, we have to depend on third-party sources for all our needs, but today we are doing through our foundation. Thanks to our beloved Honorable Prime Minister for funding this foundation. We are an affiliate member of the ruling party, United Malay National Organization, called UMNO, on 27 August 2010. The total member of our party is 174,022. Our party headquarters in KL. And we have state offices all over the 14 states in Malaysia. Each states are headed by state chairman, who is responsible in taking care of socio-economic and welfare of Indian Muslim community, and liaising with the local government to ensure that plans are executed effectively. Khmer also plays an important role in Malaysia's political landscape. Even though we are a minority group in Malaysia, our votes are importantly significant for the ruling government. We became a medium between the government and the Indian Muslim community in Malaysia. We ensure all the government incentive and transformation plans reach to our community. Despite of having various Indian-based parties in Malaysia, Khmer stand by itself to championing the needs and the rights of Muslims of Indian origin independently. Khmer always placed the utmost priority to the welfare of the Indian Muslim community. We have conducted various efforts and strategies to eradicate poverty among Indian Muslims. A detailed census was been carried out in the year 2010 and identified 12,211 families whose household income below the poverty line. Our statistics shows that the last 7 years, we have reduced the number of household income below the poverty line from 12,211 families to 1,202 families at present. We have our welfare bureau at national, state, and division level who are working day and night to reach any person who is in need. 10% of our allocations are given to other races and religion to cater their basic and urgent needs. To make things easier and relevant to current IT era, we have introduced online welfare application system. We conduct more healthy camps to create awareness among Indian Muslims for healthy life. We believe that education is the only medium to uplift a community. We focus from primary until supporting the students till the higher levels. We ensure no students are being left out in education due to poverty. Annually, we honor the students who scored straight A's in public exams. The number has increased from 33 students in 2011 to 547 students in 2017. The system that we have adopted has shown a drastic improvement. We provide a lot of motivation and guidance to develop education and produce high morality value. We value our culture and language inherited by our forefathers. In order to that, we always focus on preserving these values. We have started Tamil classes in all our religious centers so that our children will master Tamil language. We do support our Tamil literates to publish their writings. Women and youth has always been an asset to our party. We believe they play a major role in our community development. We tailor more programs to cater the needs of these targeted groups. To date, 650 single mothers successfully completed tailoring courses free of charge. We are in the midst of opening boutiques to provide a selling platform for them. We bring our youth and women leaders for working visit to overseas countries as part of exposure for them. We do conduct entrepreneurship training, motivational talks, and guidance from them to excel in their career and business with the collaboration of government agencies and private professional trainers. Our youth wings conducts various sports and recreational activities to attract young generation. This is basically all about our party and our organization, and the next few years is going to be an exciting years. We plan to have our own university, to start our own social and culture center, zero poverty, increase membership, and upgrade systems. We believe the strength of our party and support from the community will reach the peak. In fact, I just want to talk about the connectivity, but just give me a few minutes after later, I'll be answering on that subject of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Datuk Sri Syed Ibrahim. And Ravi, may I now request you to make a presentation? Thank you.
I will request the people that put my PowerPoint.
Children of Mother Earth.
Yeah. Okay, namaste all of you. I'm a Singaporean by birth, and I'm a civil engineer by profession, and it was during my childhood that I visited India, my ancestral village, and there it was like seeing the poverty in the village. It came in my mind to help the children there. So that's how this idea of forming organization Children of Mother Earth came. It was my childhood dream that, once I earn enough money in Singapore, I will return to my village and do something for the children there. And of course, some teachings from Vivekananda, Gandhi, and my father, who was with Subhash Chandra Bose in Singapore, inspired me. So the motto of our organization is humanity is our religion, earth is our motherland. We believe that earth is one big family, and humanity means helping each other, is the religion. We deal with street children, orphans and destitute children from the villages, runaway children, and children living on the railway platforms. Actually, the street children in India, they come from the villages. There is not enough support system in the villages. So the children who are from poorer family, or if the family face some problems, they go to the cities for some livelihood where they are exploited and they end up as a street child. So this was my first work when I went to India, to my ancestral village. And this is my ancestral home, which was done in 1956 by my father. The upper part of the building was done by me. And children, they live here. This was done in 1998. It has all the 4 major religions of India. In the triangle, you can see Hinduism, Sikhism, Jesus Christ, and Bismillah Abdul Rahman Rahim. Humanity is our religion, earth is our motherland. The motto of the organization is there, and it is open to all religion and of all caste in India. So 2004, railway offered us a place, and this was the gentleman who later became the chairman of the railway board, and he offered us a place in Gorakhpur, and then later 2006 in Lucknow, when he became the chairman of the railway board. This is in Delhi, Shahdra, and this was opened in 2007. So in total, we have about 400 children, of which we reunite about 200 children every year with their family. There are many runaway children in India on the streets, and we bring them to our homes. We give them counseling and try to trace their roots, their parents. Some of them are like, not willing to go home because of poverty, and some of them are lost. So this is what we basically do with the children. We reunite them, as I just mentioned you, medical treatment, counseling and emotional healing, schooling. They go to normal mainstream schools, and some of them are into polytechnics, some of them are into engineering colleges, some girls are doing nursing. I have tied up with some Indian government agencies for vocational training. We do celebrate their birthdays and, bring different kind of activity, do different kind of activities with them. Advocacy, I feel like, now it's time for me to, move to another level, to, reach to the government of India, to implement they have very beautiful programs, and I feel like, if they can implement it, a lot of children can be benefited. So first we motivate children to go to schools, and this is the photo of my first batch of children from the streets, and it's very important picture for me because a lot of schools were not taking admission because they were from the streets. And the local teachers and principal, they know the children, they know their background, and they gave me, one chance that, okay, if they will succeed, then we will, they can continue the, education in the school, and, they succeeded. We do bridge schooling in, we take children from the slums, and, they stay the whole day in our centers, and, we give them education, and at the night, some of them will go back. Vocational training, we don't have a proper vocational training center. as of now, but we are planning to build one by the name of Come Academy, in which we will be focusing more on skill development and vocational training. These are some pictures of reuniting families. Medical treatment. Medical is a big need in India, especially for the street children. They have a lot of skin disease. So we collaborate with government agencies. We organize medical camps, and there are a lot of doctors who help me there. This kind of skin diseases they have. Injuries. Yeah, I focus a lot on emotional healing because I feel like, without emotional well-being, there won't be a holistic development of the children. So I have learned different methods of emotional healing. Yeah, we did, as I mentioned, we celebrate Holi and their birthdays. They don't know their birthdays, so whatever is their date of entry into the homes, we'll celebrate their birthday. So these are some picture of visits. This was the first batch of children, after the exam, they got the trophy. Yeah, I got some awards and all that. This is Yogi Adityanath below, and the former Chief Minister, Dr. Tony Dan. This is what I just mentioned about the Akkam Academy focusing on vocational training. Yeah, now is what is the current situation of the street children in India. This is a survey done by Save the Children, and it shows what the street children want. Actually, in India, the government haven't done any census for the street children, so they are not very sure how many street children are there, but approximately they agree that about the street children, about more than 20 million in India, so it's a big number. And most of the street children, they want homes. So my objective of showing this presentation is, today I was very emotional, when in the morning they were showing the clips of INA, Azad Hind Force. My father was part of it, and I was, in the picture I was looking for my father, and I was thinking that, he has done so much for India, one bullet could have hit him, when he was fighting, yeah. And what we have done, so far for the motherland, for India. I feel like, the world is one family, but I have chosen India because I have connections there. I have my ancestral property there, yeah, and I think I can work more effectively there, yeah. So it's very sad to see in India during the winters, all the children lying on the streets, girls being exploited and being sold, yeah. So I spoke to the High Commissioner in Singapore that, we must have a session where the OCIs and APIOs, if they want to contribute, they can contribute directly to their home district, to their villages. There are many projects to do. We had, India Development Fund before, but now the Ministry of External Affairs is working on something where you can directly monitor where your money is going. So kindly contact the Singapore High Commission, for how to choose your project and what you want to do. There are many big projects and small projects also. Like these are some statistics, which I know I don't have to show all these statistics because everyone have been to India, everyone have seen on the railway platform, on the streets, how children are there. This is about UP. I just met the Chief Minister before coming here and told him about, what I'm trying to do there. And I met the Principal Secretary there in Uttar Pradesh, Mrs. Renuka Kumar. She's an IAS officer. And she was telling that, yeah, Ravi, we need a lot of homes for the children. And we really need centers for children of special need, children suffering from autism, because we don't have even one good one, so that we can train the other one. We need homes for women who are mentally challenged, yeah. And of course, yeah, she has a lot of compassion for people who are mentally challenged. So this is one of the estimate is about 300 USD if you can build a home for 25 children in India under the name of your beloved one, under the name of your organization. And this money will go not to our organization, but directly to the Indian High Com to, help the children. And, it will last for a century, for 100 years. And, I don't know how many good karma you will gain from it. Yeah. So this is a bit big project, but, there are small projects also like, toilets and, small homes for children and, for homeless people. So this is a basic design which I proposed to the High Commissioner. So, for details, you all can contact me again. So that's it. I hope I finished in time. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Ravi. Very touching. So now may I request Prasun, Billion Bricks. Please give him a hand.
All right, thank you for having me here, and it's an honor to be on a panel like this. I've known Jayesh even before I started Billion Bricks, and he was one of the guys who pushed me in some ways indirectly to actually start. So my background's, I'm an architect, and I worked in the commercial design industry for about 10, 12 years. And I would work on these fancy projects, buildings, homes, always for people who actually had a home. This is a project from Kuala Lumpur where I was designing a 600-meter tall tower. And I would go to all these cities where I was working, like Manila, Jakarta, Mumbai, and I'll see these people on the streets. And I'll come to conferences like this on architecture design and on housing, and I'll speak about what the government should do, what the others should do, how should we tackle poverty. But there was a point when I started thinking that what have I done to solve this, right? We all want to do something. We all know that there's poverty, but we don't know where to start. And I contemplated with this thought for about 4 years, seeing what can I do and how can I just stop talking and expecting others to do it. Why don't I do something myself? So I founded an organization called Billion Bricks 4 years ago with a simple vision to take one problem, which is homelessness, and solve it. So we are a design studio, a design and technology studio based in Singapore. We also have team members based in India, Europe, and United States as well. And our focus is to innovate new shelter solutions for the homeless, but not just to help the homeless, but to eradicate the problem of homelessness. In the nonprofit sector, you find a lot of organizations doing small bit of work, which is very great. But the problem is that we are not able to catch up with the scale of the problems. In fact, housing is one issue where about 1 billion people don't have access to homes today, and over the next 15 years, this number will double. So if we are not even able to catch up, how will we ever solve the problem? And housing is something which is a human right, and we keep thinking about whether there are financial models that exist or not, how to solve it, how do we solve the land issues. But the point is that a human right needs to be provided. There are each day people dying, literally like how Ravi mentioned, if we are not able to provide them something as basic as housing as well. These are some of the homes that we built in Cambodia. About 60 homes are built. These are some projects we are doing in rural India. For us, the scale is very important. We really believe that unless we can achieve massive scale with our work, the problem will never be solved. These are schools that we are building in Malaysia and is actually operational now. And the second area that we work in, that we don't look at the homeless as beneficiaries, but as our customers. We believe that if we look at them as beneficiaries, we always have this idea of helping them, and we are superior to them. But if we look at them as our customers, then we are actually providing them what they need, and rather than having this thing of we are the ones who actually know everything and go there. So we always start our design from ground up, looking what our customers want and how we can serve them best. So if a lot of you are from India, you would know in 2013 there was an incident where 30 children had died by sleeping in cold after communal riots. This is exact picture of the camp where they'd been living and the kind of housing conditions the government had provided them. And I was aghast that in 21st century we can't save our kids from something as trivial as cold. So we went in and our team spent 6 months designing these shelters, which are one of its kind in the world, which are insulated and work on the principle of trapping a family's body heat to keep them warm and safe in this environment. These are reversible, so they can be used in summers as well. We've tested them in snow conditions also. And we've had some celebrities that kind of endorse them in terms of that this is really innovation at its best. And I want to just share a story of how life-changing something like this can be. So if a homeless person wants to help their family with shelters today, there are really no options. I mean, all they need is to work hard, earn more money, and do something about it. But in our case, we've got an on-ground team which actually goes and sells these tents to the homeless community. This is a picture of a gentleman whose name is Lala Khale. He lives in streets of Mumbai. He's been living on the streets of Mumbai for 25 years. And his daughter that you see on the side goes to an English medium school. It takes a lot of effort for somebody living on the streets to send their kids to an English medium school. And he bought one of our tents so that he could create a study room for his daughter. So it's important that they have an opportunity where they are actually empowered to take control of the life that they want to live. The third principle that we work with is called to not design poorly for the poor. So we never start with the premise of how much do our homes cost. We design with the premise of what is it that our customer needs and how can we provide it the best effective cost possible to them. These are homes that we are building in rural India, Sri Lanka, and Philippines. These are the world's first solar homes designed for the homeless. Even you and I, we have enough money, but we don't put solar cells. And we know that with climate change, in future, our housing will not work. Our idea is that can we take housing to a level where the homeless will actually leapfrog into a future which is more sustainable than what you and I live in. And the last point I want to make is that we empower anyone in the world to take action, because everybody wants to do something, but they don't know what to do. So we actually provide our solutions on an online portal where anybody can actually come in and buy. And we've seen some fantastic uptake from our website. We've had kids from all over the world fundraising for us. We had actually a kid from Switzerland who gave up his Christmas present and asked his mom to actually gift a homeless a shelter. We've got kids traveling across the United States, carrying our tent and creating advocacy work for us. Students who've raised funding to send tents to Rohingyas in Bangladesh. And not only students who have money, but we've had homeless from United States and Canada and Europe actually come on our web portal and actually buy it, and we ship it to them so they can actually now take control of their lives. They don't have to wait for police or for government to come in if they need protection during winter times. And we operate one of the most transparent platforms that you can see in the nonprofit sector, where every shelter that we build is actually tracked online. You can go in and punch in a QR code number which you get, and you can see which family is using it in which part of the world. So you know exactly where your dollars have gone, so we believe in extreme transparency. So I just want to end by saying that we all want to do something, and there's opportunity out there. And if we just took our minds to it, and if we decide to do it, we all can make a difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prasoon. And now, last but not least, Rajiv Srivastava.
Thanks, Jayesh. This is Rajiv Srivastava. My day job is as a managing partner at Basil Capital Partners, very much as such in the field of in capitalism, but I'll now soon talk to you about something very different and something where I'm even more passionate than my regular job. The theme at this PBD, very nicely talks about ancient root and new business. And the theme that Artha Forum has is ancient wisdom, particularly applied to modern business. It's a not-for-profit initiative, and the goal here is to try to connect entrepreneurs and professionals and bring to them in a way that they understand, in the way that they find relevant and useful, wisdom from a lot of ancient scriptures applied into modern business. We are also trying to showcase to the current day entrepreneurs that if you want to build a long-term sustainable business, then a model, the age-old model of trusteeship actually helps in not just building a successful business, but keeping it for a longer period of time when you actually incorporate giving back into the business model itself. The current next gen, as I have seen, many of them are not just interested in creating businesses for the sake of money. And when the next gen gets a higher purpose and decides that, I'd like to do the same thing, maybe a business enterprise, but with a higher purpose, and that is more important than just the passion and profit, then the current next gen is far more excited, and they understand that, this can actually build a business for generations. Why did we really start Artha Forum? When I saw in a World Economic Forum at Davos 2 years back, 81 people had more wealth than 3.5 billion people. Just last year, when Oxfam again released their report, what have we found? I'm not surprised in some ways. Just 8 people have more wealth than the bottom 3.5 billion people. While we, of course, I'm not an advocate of communism, so people feel that there is no other model other than greed-based capitalism that works. And that's the reason we have all got together to try and present different models where where there is capitalism, but it's done with a higher purpose. So Artha Forum has had events over 18 events in multiple cities all over the world. We've had events in Silicon Valley. We've spoken to entrepreneurs there. We've spoken to, we've spoken at events in Dubai. We've spoken at events in Bangalore, Mumbai, at the Bombay Stock Exchange. And it has been attended by thousands of entrepreneurs who have found what we are trying to present useful to them. We've had some very good speakers from Singapore. I recognize names like Gautam Banerjee, who's the chairman of Raise Singapore. He's also the chairman of Blackstone Singapore. Satpal Khattar, Amit Chandra, who's on the board of Tata Sons. We've also got spiritual teachers like Bhakti Rasamrit Swami. We've got senators like Tulsi Gabbard. We also had Marcy Shimoff, who's a New York best-selling author, and another entrepreneur who, right from his entrepreneurship journey, had always looked at business for some different, from a higher purpose. People like Ajay Piramal, Ronnie Screwwala, these are not just business people, but in fact, like Ronnie is doing a lot with Swadesh Foundation, doing a lot for the villages right now. So what exactly is the business model here? We are not trying to suggest, we are basically trying to see how should capitalism function in current day such that, the problems which are currently in this world can reduce significantly. So we are telling entrepreneurs, start a business model. But why are you doing it? Are you only doing it so that you're going to buy some big, big fancy apartments, cars in every, country in the world? But the same entrepreneurs, if they actually try to include, if they really answer the question why, and if they believe that, if they can allocate 10 to 50% of their ownership to charity for philanthropy goals, for causes like we have got some very nice panel members who have, then that goal actually drives these entrepreneurs to become more successful. In fact, if the community is not just the stakeholder, or in the words of Jamshedji Tata, it is not just a stakeholder, but the very existence for its business, then you will actually see, look at life 110 years back when Jamshedji Tata started Tata Empire. He allocated on day zero, when he started, over 55% of Tata's is actually owned by charities. And now when you look at life 110 years later, it is not that the Tata business has gone down. They have actually created a $110 billion business. They are created fantastic leaders of the caliber of J.R.D. Tata and Ratan Tata. So why we are suggesting this model is because it actually makes business sense. When you have these higher goals, you attract good people, you appreciate them more, take better care of them, and actually all of this results to a more successful business. These are some, the bigger names you've all heard of, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, who are doing a lot of, give back. But through our Artha Forum events at various places, we've had many of these, younger entrepreneurs who have dovetailed their business propensity and included giving back right at the inception. I will just end with one last statement that in order for us to make this desired change, you may have seen in my earlier slides that I also have some spiritual teachers teaching. And one very famous spiritual teacher, when he visited London, his name is Swami Prabhupada, he was asked, why have you come to our country? We don't need any other kind of, new philosophy. And Srila Prabhupada said that you British people came to our country, you took a lot of our wealth, but you forgot to take one very, very important treasure. And the real treasure you forgot to take, I have come to give this to you freely.
Thank you, Rajiv. I'll just spend a few minutes just telling you a little bit more about Akhanda Jyoti Eye Hospital, and then we'll jump right into the topic, which is reconnecting for social impact. So Akhanda Jyoti Eye Hospital was started by Mrityunjay Tiwari. He was a soccer player, a football player for a very famous football club in Calcutta called Mohan Bagan, which is like the Manchester United for India. And after he retired, he went back to his native place, which is called Mastichak, which is 1 hour away from Patna. And he asked his grandfather, saying, hey, how do I give back to the community? So he says, you just look around here and you'll see a lot of projects and you'll see a lot of poverty. Actually, I'm sure you'll find something. What he first discovered is that there are a lot of young girl childs getting married very early. So he said, listen, all I know is how to play soccer and teach soccer. So he started a soccer camp. And then from that soccer camp, he started giving them vocational training to become nurses. On the other side, he also saw some curable blindness that he thought could be eradicated. And so he started some eye camps. 10 years later, now fast forward, he's built a 5-story hospital. He's got 140 of those nurses now trained vocationally who were playing soccer. And they've put women empowerment around it, so they teach them all kinds of other education, health education, financial literacy, sex education, to see if they can take them away from early child marriages. And then along with it, now in the last 10 years, he's done more than 500,000 cataract operations. Last year alone, they did 65,000 cataract operations. 80% of them are for free. So this is a non-profit organization. It costs 2,500 rupees for them to do one cataract operation, which is only $40. $40, it just changes the person's life. So a person who's just sitting on the sidelines, either a juvenile case of cataract or an older person, they just sit on the side, they don't think that they have any hope in life. And then once they get the cataract operations done, then it's a rejuvenated, it's a completely new life. And so I agreed to then help the organization to scale further, because curable blindness in Bihar is a massive problem, but he's attacking the low-income states. So there is Chhattisgarh and there is Jharkhand and Orissa, etc. So it's on the East Coast. So there's 1 million curable blind people that he's trying to cure over the next 5 years. So that's the project of Akhanda Jyoti Eye Hospital. I just wanted to give you that feedback. So the topic of reconnecting for social impact, I thought that I'll just kickstart this in the time that we have and still see if we can have a small discussion and open it up for questions. But I'm going to rapidly go through some of my thought process on reconnecting. And this topic is social impact has been around for a long time. Non-profit is the way that social impact has been done for ages. I personally allocate my giving in 3 buckets. So one bucket is the calamity giving. So there are calamities that happen like earthquakes and tsunamis, and I would have some allocation for that. But I also give money for micro lending. So in micro lending, what happens is you give money, it does good, and then the money comes back to me, and I cycle it back. So good is happening, and my money is circling back. So that is micro lending. So I have some allocation for that. And then the third one is that I do impact investing in equity. So today, the youngsters are starting social enterprises. So more and more youngsters come to me, and their business model that they're choosing is between non-profit and for-profit, and they're choosing for-profit to do good. So there are many projects that actually can take avail of that particular structure, which is for-profit doing good. So in many education projects, healthcare projects, you actually have a for-profit model. And I will invest in the equity of those companies. And they want to be accountable, they want to run it professionally, and they don't want to take donations, going begging year after year, basically answering to the donors. They say instead that I would like to have a for-profit social enterprises. So I have some allocation for that. Again, many a times those social enterprises don't work, and then for the times that it works, I get my money back, I plow it back into the system. So that's sort of a recycling method. So that's how I allocate. Again, this is reconnecting new ideas, new thought process of social impact. It's not just limited to nonprofits. A phenomenal upsurge is in retail donations. Retail donors and retail donation is dramatically increasing. 2016 saw a 7.9% increase, and then 2017 they're expecting over 14%. The numbers are not still out, but they're expecting a significant increase. So micro donations and micro lending, it's increasing significantly. There are organizations like Give Asia, Give India, organizations like Kiva, you might have heard of, or Milap. Okay, so these are the organizations, these are new startups in the last 5 years that have surged. The next is the self-directed philanthropy. Thanks to people like Bill Gates and Desh Pandey, Sudha Murthy, Nandan and Rohini Nilkani. These are folks who have decided that they know how to do business, they know how to do projects, they know how to run programs, they know how to manage people. And so they want to allocate their money to self-directed philanthropy. And so there is a huge upsurge in that. So as much as I agree with Rajiv that there's a very few people who are making money, but in the capitalist system, it is what it is. And people like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are now trying to put that back into the system by doing their own self-directed philanthropy. As I mentioned to you, the structure, of course, of it is changing. It is not just limited to non-profit, because the young entrepreneurs are getting invested in by a lot of angel investors. So there are angel investors who are investing in these social enterprises, but also there are large funds. So there are new wave is the impact fund. Avishkar is a $93.5 million social impact fund directed at India. Avishkar Frontier Fund is a $48 million fund which invests in social startups in Indonesia and Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. So low capital. So there are many Ankur capital. So there are many startups that are getting funded by these impact funds. And so that's an asset class that's building. TPG just announced a $1 billion social impact fund. So if you're anybody interested in that, should look it up. And there is an impact network called Intellicap Impact Investment Network, IQBEN. Impact measurement is also actually making big, long strides. GIN, G-I-I-N, is an organization that's trying to standardize a lot of measurable impact, because that's a question that many people ask. And then, of course, in India, you have the CSR, where 2% of your profits that you need to plow back. So a lot of non-profits are now aligning and lining up to try to figure out how to claw back some of that money. So I just want to open it up if there is any comments in my panel in the next few minutes in terms of reconnecting with these new models of social impact. I understand that most of you have non-profits, but if you want to have some comments that you want to make before I open it up. You can go first? Do you want to say something?
I'll just only add this thing with an example, that even in the not-for-profit world, take the example of the journey of Annamrita, which started with a midday meal program with 26,000 children, and in about 10 years it has scaled up to 1.2 million meals a day. So even when you're running a non-profit, how did the CEO do this? A CEO of even commercial companies haven't done it as well. Is that, can you put quality even in a NGO? So when you have very high quality, even if you are not looking at just the impact funds, but if you look at the third bucket, the first bucket that you spoke, if even NGOs run this with a high level of quality, high level of transparency, lot more funding automatically comes in. And, so this had ISO 9000 kitchen on day one. It tried to, just like Prashun, his Billion Bricks is talking about high level of quality, even though you're trying to serve the bottom end of society. And when you do that, all such NGOs will scale up.
Yeah, I just want to make a few comments about the reconnecting with social impact, and especially I think there's been some talk about the non-profit and social enterprise and for-profit, right? The only reason, and I'll give personal examples from my experience, the only reason I ended up starting non-profit, Billion Bricks as a non-profit, is because I spent 4 years trying to figure out how do I work with the poorest of the poor and have a business model that could work. And I couldn't figure it out. And for me, what was important was that the people who are on the streets are being neglected because no one's able to figure out a way to provide them access to homes. If you look at affordable housing, it typically works with just below the low income bracket, because with some support from the government, some discounted interest rates, you can make the model work. You buy land which is cheaper. But when you go to people who can't afford slums, no business model works. And that's where Billion Bricks works with the poorest of the poor in the world. But interestingly, 4 years down the road, we are now seeing that there's a business model which exists in that stream as well. So the tents that I showed you, we are now selling them in the retail market in the United States and Canada. just on the Tom's model of buy one, give one. The homes that I showed you, the power ride homes, are actually financially viable, and we are speaking to investors in Europe, some green funds, who are willing to invest their money in a nonprofit as well. So the point is that just take the plunge. If you want to do something, connect with the social impact area, don't wait for time. Take the plunge and start doing it, because that's what matters. I mean, in the social sector, what you find is a lot of people think that once we've kind of have enough wealth, we are 40, 50 years old, that's when we'll do it. But you know that the youngsters have the passion and energy which we just can't have at that age. With all due respect, I really think that the youngsters need to come in forward and not wait for them to be 50 years or 60 years in age.
Thank you. In fact, I just been, the panelists have been talking about non-profit and then also the donations we are talking about. But I feel that for this to be run all these things, an organization must be there, a proper organization, to undertake this one. Because our failure is all basically on the organization. They are running, all these organizations are running on a small scale, whereby they get some donation, but it's not been executed properly. This is what's been happening up. So we can see that because they want to championing themselves. That's all. So we need to have reconnecting this organization all in one, whereby we can able to achieve it and we can execute it, the aim of setting up this organization. It's very, very important. So then only we can see the changes, the impact, social impact, the changes in the ground. So for example, we take it up. In Malaysia, during any natural disaster, part of the world, any part of the world, the Malaysian government will assign few organizations. And then they will ask them to identify the needs on the relief, what to do. And then this organization will call other organizations with them, and they will find a solution for that. So we can able to know that everybody can able to work, because one is money, that I mean is in the source of either from the government or from donation. But how are we going to execute it? So this kind of way that I think that we need to have a link among all the organization, Indian-based organization, so that we can able to be achieve that.
Yeah, I think that's what the Indian High Com in Singapore is trying to do, you know, to identify a way in which people can invest into it.
So I guess in common, our hypothesis is that everybody is a good person, everybody wants to give, and it's not the size of giving. It could be micro grants, it could be micro loans. You don't have to be affluent to give. I think there is a myth that says, well, okay, only the rich people give. I don't think so. Today, the micro donations online go from $5 to $10. I think then going forward, the question is, what does it take people to, more and more people from ASEAN and India and our diaspora to come out and give more money? It's a constant question. There are people who come to me and say, we don't know what to give to, or we don't have the trust and confidence. And so here as a panel, we're happy to answer questions, that will motivate you to join us. May I, are there mics?
Questions from the floor,
Yeah,
please.
thank you.
Gentleman in the center.
Please state your name and try to be as brief as possible so we can take more questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I wanted to just take this opportunity to, it's not so much of a question really. My name is Ranbir Singh and I'm a compliance professional. I work with a bank here. And one of the things I've been working with the Indian High Commission here is, we've talked about financial contribution and some other very meaningful ways of contributing. The other asset which we have as overseas Indians is the intangible asset of our expertise, our skill, our professional knowledge, which we've collected over the last decades in an international environment. And I think we would be happy to contribute that as well. And the way we sort of leverage that pool of talent and expertise is to create something called, you might refer to it as the Overseas Indian Knowledge Center, where overseas Indians who are interested can register themselves with the Indian High Commission in their location, their contact details, their specifics of their expertise, the field, the industry, as well as their time availability. Depending on the stage in career they are, they would have different varying levels of availability. And whenever in the future the Indian government or the Indian establishment is thinking of a reform, whether it's sanitation, infrastructure, rural infrastructure, education, health, they can go to that data which is accessible across the world. In fact, this could be just, you could start it from Singapore, but you could have this in main high commissions across New York, London, Hong Kong. And, the Indian establishment could access that data and look at the experts for whatever they're looking at. Let's say sanitation or health, and look at the health experts across the world who are overseas Indians who've offered themselves to be able to provide their expertise. So that's the other way of reconnecting with the social impact. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that we would like to sign you up. Would you please give him a big hand? We'd like to sign you up. And may I please request you to get in touch with Tushar, who's right here in the front. So raise your hand, yeah. And he will connect you to the High Commissioner's office so that we can get this started. And it should not be limited just to a few people. There are so many large organizations, like Tushar is the president of Gujarati Samaj. There are so many other Indian, apparently there are 40 or 45 different Samaj societies of Indian origin. But again, not limiting it to Indians, all of ASEAN should come together and have a database like that, starting with Singapore as just a database to start the whole model going. So I really think that's a terrific project, and you should spearhead it.
Sure, thank you.
All
thank
right,
you,
next
sir.
question.
Thank you.
My name is Vijay Kumar Gupta. Partially my question has been answered, because when I talk to my children abroad, they say, Papa, वो तो India में misuse हो जाता है. Somehow there is a communication gap, a trust deficit between the donor and the recipient. And what I have seen in my own experience in India is that the NGOs, who are big NGOs, they spend too much of money on their administrative costs. So when we talk of government, it's so easy to blame, but when I see NGOs, they are, but the answer is, if a IM boy is doing it, he will take money in lakhs, which when I'm giving money and I'm donating, I do not want somehow the psychology in my mind, which I have shared with others also, is that the people who are working in NGOs, they should not get so much salaries. So how do we reconcile it? Thank you.
Yeah, so I think we should have an offline chat. I'll try and give you a short answer. And my short answer is that I think it's a very unfair system. You want to do amazingly phenomenal, scalable, replicable, large things to eradicate poverty, but you don't want to pay someone who wants to sacrifice his or her life to do that. And if they went through an IIT or an IIM and want to do this, which is a social enterprise, then I think we should be more encouraging and not be thinking and belittling them by thinking that they are doing a minor job. We can certainly have an offline job, but my take to you also is, that there is something for everyone. You can get just online, and there are small donations that you can give to farmers directly without anybody else, these IIM types and people taking big salaries. So you can do your little contributions like that, or you can also go to a very large organization if you feel that that's appropriate, and at some point when you feel that there is a confidence. But my take to you is that I think there are enough projects out there, and I think you need to really come and join and convince your kids that they should come and join in this giving.
Can I want to also comment on the first part you mentioned in terms of giving money and you don't know where it goes, right? So there also, I think, in every conversation, we generally try and keep impact and business as separate, but they should ideally be weighed in the same way that you weigh anything else, right? So if you give money to a business and say you buy a phone, it doesn't work, you will go to a repair shop and you'll say, oh, it was too terrible, but you'll not give up the business at all. You'll still be okay with it, but for nonprofits, you find the accountability requirements for even small amounts like $5, $10 is very high, which is very high to be accountable. And I can give you a clear example. Volkswagen and Audi, two companies, they cheated the American system for years in spewing 40 times the amount of environmental regulations that were allowed in terms of how much emissions you can have. And they were penalized by just about $1 billion, not considering the fact that how many of the environmental damage they did. Nobody quit their job, nobody stopped buying those cars, and we still continue to work with them, and we never ask for that accountability. So we need to have a level playing field for everyone, and that's when the problems will start to get solved.
But I must agree on one thing with you, that we do all collectively need to bring up the trust and confidence. There should be more transparent reporting on financials, on budgets, etc. So I think we completely agree with you that more and more transparency and trust and confidence is required. Next question.
I'm practicing banker in Singapore, dealing with most of the diaspora out here. And I also strictly follow socially responsible investing, so I don't touch certain sectors and things like that. The difficulty which arises in convincing people to spend money or invest money into this, the due diligence process and things like that. Are there any guidelines which anyone you can provide in that section?
Yeah, there are a lot of, and again, feel free to jump in, but there are a lot of consulting organizations, just like you would have due diligence organizations in a normal mainstream commercial deals. There are people who are doing consulting, and they are available on large-scale deals. And of course, on small deals, it's again word to mouth. It's just no different than you investing in a startup where you don't know much about it. Then you say, who is this person? And connect, making a few phone calls on technology and the person. Same way in angel investing at a social impact level, there is a sort of word of mouth. But in terms of consultants, there are a lot of consultants out there, including big guys like Intellicap, who will do, and then there is consulting organizations like Diaspora, and happy to give you more information depending on which vertical sector you're looking at. There are people who can help you do the due diligence. There are large-scale, big private equity and venture capital funds who are also now starting to invest in this sector. And because they realize that, for example, the urban piece has got too much competition in it, and the price competition is very high. Whereas if you invest in projects which are either agro projects or sanitation or waste management, etc., the competition is less. People's willingness to pay for those services also is high, especially like education and healthcare. So I think there are more and more people coming into this particular space and investing, and they also have their due diligence teams. But do you want to?
There is also United Way, which is actually, rating a lot of these NGOs extremely well. What is the expense ratio, so on and so forth. And United Way is a very prestigious organization which is, doing this as a nice service.
In India, the Ministry of Home Affairs, they have a separate section if you are funding from overseas. It's called FCRA, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. And once Narendra Modi has taken over, they are really scrutinizing, the organizations, and there's a lot of transparency there, and things have improved there.
Thank you. Next question. Yeah.
Jayesh, we've got time for just one more final question.
Well, I've got 2 minutes and 46 seconds. If you answer quickly, I can answer too.
Hello, hello, I'm Bhagwan from Singapore. I think this question will more likely go to the CALM organization. I'd just like to know, how can we help the children in the most impactful way, and the condition of girls on the street, what is their condition? Thank you.
In my presentation, I show that, most of the children, they want home, and the most vulnerable are the girls. You see, you can't see girls above the age of 11 or 12 on the streets. They are on the streets below the age of 11 and 12, and after that, they are being sold or trafficked somewhere. So I think the most impactful way is to provide them a safe home. And it's a big project, but it's very impactful. And I think that for girls, home is very important. Otherwise, they go into flesh trade or do trafficked, and they are exploited.
Okay, definitively the last question.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm R.K. Ramanikrishnan from Malaysia. Actually, I'm not intent to ask question because it's not easy to ask question with people who doing work. Okay, you are doing a very noble work. Anyway, in the middle of discussion, I want to ask about one. This is about one case study in Malaysia. Recently, last few years, our government Malaysia, because money and fund is a substantial factor for this work. So our government of Malaysia gave 750 million Malaysian money to more than 400 NGOs to connect with public, or whoever needed it. But as far as I'm concerned, the government sectors and then the NGOs and parties who supporting the government, they're very happy with that. But in the other hand, the oppositions are still condemning, and then even public saying that this project is a total failure. So I want to ask our Dato Sri, what do you think about it, and then can you give some feedbacks on it, sir?
Yeah, of course. When we talk about the big amount of money the government has been giving, and then of course they are setting up a council to look after how they're spending the activity that have been going on and all. Of course, every one good thing is we are doing. Of course, there is a party will be condemning or whatever the good thing that we are doing about. So we let it come back in the other way, whereby how they're going to utilize the money to support. That's why earlier I was talking about the organization where they can able to control over the whole thing happening up. Because why the NGOs, they're setting up the NGOs, but they don't have the money. When the government gave the fund to them, and we have to make sure that how they're going to utilize that money. So I think he's very well known on this issue. I think, Malaysian government, of course, they're doing very well, because that's why I give an example of Malaysia, whereby how they've been coordinating with the organizations.
I want to thank all of you for staying here till so late, and I want to thank all my panel members. If you can please give them a round of applause. Thank you so much for coming.
To our chair, Mr. Jayesh Parekh, to Datuk Sri Syed Ibrahim Kadir, Prasoon Kumar Rajiv Srivastava, and Ravi Manas, once again concluding our two-day great event with a wonderful informative panel. Give them another big round of applause, please.